This is the Horse Radio Network.
Hello, everyone. This is producer Jemmy with episode number 532, a best of. The gang is out today, so we're rolling things back to June 5th, 2016, when Reese and Philip shared 9 dressage tips to help your dressage tests, spoke about keeping your horse cool in hot weather with Dr. Embley, and we're joined by Judge Jennifer R. Roth for a Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. Listen in.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. Plus, as a special highlight, because he's super famous now and he doesn't come on our show anymore, Glenn the Geek.
Hey, guys. It's good to be back talking dressage.
Yeah.
I know, and we're glad. We are having a technical issue, so we are really glad that Glenn is here. It seems to work much better when he's here. And we are having
let's clarify that. Reese is having a technical issue. Philip and I are fine. You guys are
good. I have like every computer thing out that I could even possibly try to get out, but we are having terrible storms and my internet is just not working. So I'm on the phone tonight, so I'm sorry about that. But we're here. We're all safe and sound. Everyone's tucked in.
I think everybody can understand that rural Kentucky is not especially served with great
right.
internet.
We don't have great internet, and I even feel my storms will be gone, but everybody in Texas, I feel for you guys. So I hope everybody's safe down there. But everybody in the South is getting really bad storms right now. So I feel for everybody. So we apologize about my sound. So I hope and Philip and Glenn are kicking in. I can't even get our show notes up, so I'm off the hook.
We'll get it done. I love it. We can do it.
We're just glad you're here because I really cannot help with the 9 tips for dressage success.
Well, we're excited.
Heels down. That's about what I got. Right.
Heels down.
Well, you can give us the Horse Radio Network updates. Since we haven't had them in a while.
Oh, yeah. Well, I want to make sure everybody knows that the app has now been updated to include all 10 shows on the network. So Healthy Critters Radio and the Rodeo Marketing Show. If you're in marketing at all in the horse world, if you're marketing shows, events, or if you're a professional rider, even dressage riders who are looking for sponsors, then I would listen to the Rodeo Marketing Show because what they're talking about is marketing. They're talking about marketing events, and they're also talking about how athletes get sponsorship. And what they're doing is they're talking to the biggest sponsors in the world, and they're asking them what they look for in an athlete and what they want to see. So it's been very interesting, that show. Yeah. So, and we
need to listen. Phil and I will listen.
Yeah. I've been learning a lot from that show because they're really talking to the people who are in there and giving out the money. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And they're also going outside the horse world. They're bringing skiers in and people who have been successful at it, more than we have and in other sports. And they're bringing them in to see if we can learn from them. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool show.
Pretty awesome.
Very cool.
Sounds like a great show.
Yeah, that just started twice a month, and then Healthy Critters Radio is rocking and rolling and doing very well. And that's all about dogs, cats, chickens, horses, and all coming from the health point of view.
All the critters. And the app is updated also. It has a live player now on it, which we didn't have before. So you can listen to Horses in the Morning live 5 days a week. And all of our special events like Road to the Horse, Radiothon, and all of that can now be listened to through our app. So, that's the best.
Yep. That's the biggest change. And they said the sound's even better than on your computer. So I don't know why that is, but
that's cool.
The speakers are better on most people's phone now.
That's true than on the computer.
It's crazy. Yeah. So crazy.
So, and then also we had a film crew at the studio here in Ocala over the weekend. They came in and filmed us doing the morning show on Friday, and then they went and filmed somewhere else, and they came back on Saturday morning. You'd love this, Philip. They came back on Saturday morning and spent 3/4 of a day here filming. They did about 3 hours of me in the studio. Geez, this whole filming thing is a pain in the butt.
That's the next level, huh?
Oh,
the
man.
Star. You're stardom.
Yeah,
what
but
can we say?
they took an hour to set up just the lighting in the studio, and I sat there and just answered questions for 2 hours, and then they would go, well, why don't you reword it a little bit more this way? Same answer, but let's say it this way. You do that 3 or 4 times. And I'm going, what a pain in the ass it is.
Yeah.
I love it.
With us, you just get what you get. Yeah, it's first time around. That's all you get. That's the best we're going to do. Doesn't get any better.
I just thought of this. I think, Glenn, this show is the start of, is it our 4th year? I started June 1st.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, it is our 4th year
together.
then. Well, congratulations.
It's our anniversary
Yay!
show.
Congratulations.
We all forgot. I just was petting my dog, and I remember that I started on the Illustrated Network around June 1st because it's Annie's birthday, too. So Annie's 8. So
there you go. Half of Annie's life you've been doing this show.
So, Glenn,
wow.
question.
Yeah.
Where can people see this video footage? What was it for?
It was for a documentary called The Messengers, a podcast documentary. It's all about podcasting and podcasters, and it's about podcasters who have messages and try and get the word out about their niches. And we're going to be featured in it because we've been doing it for a long time now, almost 5,000 episodes for 9 years. So we're going to be featured in it. They actually did some footage. You'll love this, Reese. They did some drone footage. They had a very fancy drone that does 4K video, like super high def. And this is one of the expensive drones. And they flew it, and Jennifer rode her new thoroughbred, and I drove Scooter. And they got us from really high up doing the horses, and then it got right over us doing circles underneath. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. And then they did, Philip, you'll love this, they did the carriage from the side in super slow motion. So you saw Scooter and the wheels going really slow, and Scooter, it was really cool to watch.
That's awesome.
And they did hours of footage, and we'll be 3 minutes in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's
a
so
lot of
cool,
editing.
though.
I know that, Glenn, you do a lot of editing,
but not like that.
Is a
no,
lot of editing.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hours of footage, literally hours. The drone footage was really, really cool. They're going to put
That's so cool.
They're going to put a little video together for us to just show that. So
very cool.
Yeah, that was neat.
I love it.
I'm glad they're getting the word out about podcasting, because I still have to try to explain people about what sort of what we do on Thursday evenings, and no, you don't have to you don't have to tune into your radio.
Right.
Listen whenever you want.
It's still the biggest battle we have.
Yeah.
Sure.
It can be frustrating.
And if people would only know, all they do is download an app and hit play. It's that simple.
It's so simple.
Yep.
Well, I love it. Well, very cool. I love it.
Well, Reese, I saw a lot of pictures. You had a fun week with the gang over there at Maple Crest.
Yeah. We did. We had our local horse show, our Kentucky Dressage Association show at the horse park, and big shout out to Ashley Rand on a horse that we've had it's her grandma's horse actually, and she started at first level. He had shown through 4th level. Renz is his name, but we did our first I1, 2 I1s, very good scores both days. She's qualified for regionals. So that was super cool. So big shout out to Ashley and Ren for their
She's been working pretty hard.
Yeah. She has. So that was really cool. So you can see a picture of us. That was right after she came out, and we were given the thumbs up. It was fun. So.
Winning.
And you too, Phil. It is busy. It's go time for us right now.
Oh, it's so crazy. It all happens at once. So we just shipped all the horses in today to the horse show. We're going to be there until Sunday afternoon, evening, and so that's where I was running around, picking up the horses, getting them to the show and dropping them off, and then doing, giving everybody half an hour warming up, sort of running through a test or two. Just they're ready to compete tomorrow. So the weather is absolutely beautiful here.
Rub it in.
It's just perfect. It's just high 70s, low 80s.
Awesome.
I think it's going to be just an awesome weekend. Everybody from my crew is kicking butt, and I think we're going to do great. So
awesome. Well, we have a weekend off, so we can't wait for a shout out for your crew next week. So have a great show. And now we have some tips, right? We have some tips to make your dressage test better.
Yeah. We're getting this article from Horse and Hound. And this is they've got Isabel Wessels giving 9 tips for dressage success. And I think they're pretty cool tips. So we thought we'd just bring them on the show. If any of these tips help our riders showing, I think that's pretty cool. So maybe we'll just get right to it. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds great. We'll let you read them since I can't see them.
You have no computer access for sure. No problem.
I have no computer.
The first tip is pretty, I think they're all sort of basic tips that we have to think, we can, think about them and make sure we're doing it. I think the first one is get out competing on a regular basis. So I think that's a big one for us here in Canada because our show season is really kind of short. And we can certainly, do one show and not feel great about it and then not want to show for a month or two. But I think if you just keep doing it, you keep showing, I think you can learn how to be good at competing. I don't think you learn how to be good by staying at home. So I think
like you said, you have a very shortened season, and we have a longer season here in Kentucky. We really can start in March. But that brings up a good point because we had another rider from our barn, Meredith, who did a great job this weekend. Her first test was pretty rusty, but honestly, it was her first show. It was literally the first time she'd gone down the center line. She's from Boston. She's not from here, so it was her first time sort of showing with our group. And, next year, I even said to her, you know what, we need to make sure you get to some schooling shows before it sort of counts. And, if you can't, we're lucky. We have a nice schooling show here. But even during the summer at our local park, 2 local judges go every Wednesday night. They sit in the judges' booth and they judge. And you pay $10, and it's called Summerbird. And you go and you ride your test and you get your feedback from these judges. And it's an awesome little community service they do.
That is absolutely amazing. Yeah.
It's fantastic. But you could mirror that at your farm. That's not hard to do. Or, your trainer can, go to somebody's farm, or you can get creative if you don't have sort of access like we do here, or schooling shows. You can have little schooling shows, or even have 4 or 5 of your friends come over and, have a judge or someone sit and judge you and give you some good feedback. I think it's really important. And, I even said that to Meredith. Literally, I said, you know what, your first score wasn't very good. We should toss it because there was a lot of nerves, and the horse was nervous, and she was nervous, and it was hot, and, just da. And so I think it sounds so simple, but, like
get
you said,
out
you
there,
guys have
keep doing it.
Yeah, you have a shortened season, but to be able to go out, even have a dress rehearsal, get all your clothes on, make sure everything fits and it's clean. And, because the worst is when you're trying to get ready for your test, the first show of the year, and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to buy a hairnet. Or, it sounds simple, but I think it is really important to do it. So I would recommend
this brings us to, I think it's a nice sort of thing right into the next tip is to set yourself realistic targets. So I think that, that goes right into where you're saying this is your first show, maybe, you have to say, for a lot of riders, just getting down the center line and completing the test is a big win, I think a lot of us have high aspirations to do well, but, when you're first getting out, just, you don't fall off. That's a great day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I tell people.
I say that every day.
Fall off. The rest is just horse dancing.
Right.
Stay in this.
I think
stay
that's
in the
great.
saddle. Yeah. And
then you say
so
maybe
you
the
have
next
to know.
day.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Then I was going to say, then the next day, your goal can be a little bit higher, and that is, okay, I didn't fall off the first day. Excellent. I lived. Everyone's fine. Okay, now I'm a little bit more organized. Let's go more for a little better score or a little better ride and walk through it or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
do the steps, and just, knowing where you and your horse are at, and discussing it with your coach about, how do you think, what should I be looking to achieve here, and how do you think I'm going to do, and what's a realistic target for me and my horse. So I think that's a good one. And number 3, ride at a higher level at home. So you need to be training. Everybody says a level above. So I think that's, that's good. That's realistic. Even 2 levels above is great. That's, we talk about that a lot. I think that we've given that tip quite a bit. So,
I think that's right. And it's hard, when you're doing training level. I mean, it really is hard to to do that, but you will work up to it. That where you're competing a level higher or lower than you are showing. So,
yeah. Our next one, number 4 here, is plan ahead. I think we've done a lot of tips and shows with people who talk about planning different things ahead of time and making sure all your stuff is packed and you're thinking of every contingency, and that's a big one for me because I'm not a great spur of the moment remember of stuff, so I have to do a lot of planning.
So it's awful. Let's call a spade a spade. So it's awful. It drives me crazy. I'm sure Meredith wants to kill you all the time. Like I'm one of those that like sleeps in my clothes in the morning. So you drive me crazy. Okay, it all seems to work out, but for me, it would give me a stomach ulcer. So, but I'm a planner, so I have to have it all laid out.
Going guy, and when I mean, inevitably I forget something all the time, but I'm just sort of okay with that at this point. Although one time I did forget to take my riding boots to a show, and I had to borrow somebody's boots.
That's not cool.
That was very terrible. Yeah, I felt bad about that one.
Yeah, I bet you never do that again.
Yeah. All right, next one. Next tip. This is a great one, and I think this is, sort of everybody's like, it's a no-brainer, but you got to know the test inside and out, backwards and forwards, and having ridden it a lot. And I mean, that will give you confidence, and confidence will lead to success. So,
you got it. I mean, it's easy, really,
you got to know it.
Yeah, you got to know it. And you know what? There's really kind of no excuse for it. I know that's mean, but I helped someone over the weekend who I was helping for another coach, and she didn't know her test. I mean, literally, we were down there. She didn't have a test book, and she didn't know her test. Well, I had my cell phone, so I pulled the test up, and here I'm trying to read off of the phone, and you couldn't see because it was so sunny. Oh my God, it was a disaster. And I thought, no wonder why you're so nervous. Like, you're not at all prepared for this. And it was like
even if you do know your test, and I've been there, I've helped lots of people. You will definitely have moments where you're sort of forget it. Like, you're doing the test and you're going across the diagonal, and you're just like, oh no, where am I going? But if you really know it really well, it'll come back and you'll get it, or you go off course, and that's not the worst thing in the world, but you're a lot better off if if you've practiced the test, you memorize the test, you can say it at any point where you can just do it. So that's a good one.
You know what? You can tell, even as a horse husband, I can tell the ones who are struggling to remember the test while they're doing the test. You can tell, right? I mean, yeah. It's like watching a speaker. Go ahead.
No, I don't mind reading for someone. I think, I just don't want to read if you really, really don't know your test, or you're flustered. It leads to being flustered. And it's, it's okay to, have a read. I'm for having a reader. I'd rather give you a reader than for somebody to mess up because they're so nervous. But you have to know it so that you're not freaking out because you don't have a reader, you can't hear your reader, or the reader's phone goes down, or whatever. You need to have some level of knowledge of the test. So.
All right. So our next tip here, number 6, is concentrate on what you're doing. And I like how they put this in the article from Horse and Hound. Don't look at other people too much, and don't feel inhibited by working or warming up alongside the big names. Concentrate on what you're doing with your own horse. If your horse becomes distracted during the test, put it behind you and concentrating on what's next. So I think we've talked a lot about that. A lot of riders have given us tips about, riding a good test is about, being in the moment and riding, where you're at. And when you go to a big show, not looking at, the big fancy Grand Prix horses, and just, you got to get in your own head and get in your own zone, right?
Totally. And I will tell you, I actually got in trouble with this when I was younger. Because I'm pretty friendly, as we all know, and I'm chatty. But I used to do that in the warm-up. I'd be like, oh, hey, and finally my coach was like, zip it. When you're on the horse, you're here to ride the horse. Quit talking to people. Quit saying hello. Like, you're not being rude. You just need to ride your horse and not be focused on what other people are doing. And so I really do take that to heart. So if you do see me at a horse show and I don't say hi,
don't talk to her.
That's fine. Don't talk to me because I won't answer. I had to really train myself that at that moment in time, I need to be I'll talk to whoever's grooming for me and my coach, and that is it. I just won't talk to someone because it sort of kicks me off of the focus. So
you lose your focus
I think,
easily. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm distracted.
I saw a coach once, and this was his favorite line. He always would say, "Eyes and brain forward." If he had a rider that kept looking down, and was not looking forward, and you could tell he was focusing on all the wrong stuff, he always used to say, "Eyes and brain forward."
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Very true.
Yeah,
good one. I like it. That's a good one.
Our next tips, number 7 here, is to take your time. I think in the test, we always are focusing on forward. But sometimes, forward becomes rush, and run, and people you don't get to show your best stuff if your horse is running around the ring, cutting corners, or just being nervous, having a nervous rider, and the horse looking nervous. And so, you should need to. What I tell my riders is just prepare for each movement and then execute each movement. And half halts are your best friends. So,
well, and if you think about it, you're only in the ring for like 4 minutes or 6 minutes or something. It's very short amount of time. And think of all the work you put in for that 6 minutes.
Good one.
That's what I tell people. You have worked, for 6 months or a year to be in there for 6 minutes. And it's like, enjoy it. Think, take your time. I had ridden the fastest Pre-St. George on record, I think. I was like, I watched the video. I'm like, what? Where am I going at the speed of light? Slow down, enjoy it. So, literally we figured it out one time we went to a horse show and we literally drove more hours than minutes we were in the ring.
Yeah.
This is when my sister and I were doing Young Riders and we had to drive quite far. And, it's like, okay, so I should really take my time because there was a lot of effort went into those 6 minutes. So that's something to think about. Take your time.
Yeah, good one. Number 8, get the basics right. They're the hardest thing to do, and that's what you should be focusing on. Doesn't matter what level you're doing. You have to ride, rhythm, relaxation, suppleness,
Oh, and I don't know about you, Phil, but there's a couple of things that drives me crazy. If your center lines aren't straight. Like if you aren't on the center line, that drives me crazy because that is something, okay, I mean, your horse can spook or whatever, but in general, you should get a 7 or an 8 without question on the center line in the halt.
Because that's the basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're building from a solid idea of basics, everything will go right. Everything can only has a chance to succeed, right? So, think about the things that when you started riding dressage, or if you are just a beginner still, think about what you get harped on the most for, and what you learned to do when you first started riding. I think that's just the simplest stuff will set you up for success. So, I
totally agree.
I like that
the other
tip.
thing was just like transitions. Yeah, transitions.
There's so many of them in every level, at every test.
Many.
Do them well.
Oh, do them well. If you pick up the raw canter lead, this happened at the horse show, you're trying to fumble along and you're doing fine changes, sort of going, this is 3rd level. It happened to 2 of my students and I literally almost died. It was just, when they picked up the canter, they both just didn't prepare. So then they were scrambling to get to their half fast in the 3rd level. You pick up the canter and then you ride a half fast. And it was like, you guys, what are you doing? And so that was like right on my mind, because it was like, so then they not only got a terrible transition score, then it really bled into all the canter work. And one was able to sort of regain their confidence. The other one, it just got worse and worse. And it was really started from a simple transition where the horse was a little crooked and it didn't go well. So the things to remember for sure.
Yeah. Basics. And the last one, the number 9, is you can ask for feedback. Most judges are happy to discuss the test if they have time after. Bring your sheet with you, and as long as you are polite and respectful, not confrontational, I think the judges, most of them, will be pretty happy to discuss your test with you. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
If they're not too busy rushing around, and I think most of them we'll have time for you. Sometimes at lunch, I might talk over something with a judge or whatever. Not to say, oh, I should get an 8 here, or just say, what did you see? And you can get even more feedback than what they've sort of written in the test. And sometimes they don't maybe remember you. They judge a lot of tests over a day, so you got to bring the score sheet with you, and they can help you figure out if you got some issues at a level or some problems. You can that's a useful tool. So that's the 9 tips. Isabel Whistles from Horse and Hound. We thank them very much for being able to talk about these things, and hopefully they help all of our riders.
Well, now we're going to hear from EcoVet, and we're coming back with Dr. Embley, all about keeping your horses from overheating.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if your horse could enjoy a zone of repellency from pesky flies? Well, he can with EcoVet. EcoVet is an entirely new type of fly repellent that is safe for horses and those applying it, offering a real alternative to toxic pesticides like pyrethrins. EcoVet confuses an insect's normal directional ability, the bug's GPS, if you will. So if it can't locate your horse, it can't bite your horse. Dr. Wendy Ying from the Driving Radio Show has been using it in South Florida, also known as the Jurassic Park of biting insects, and she just loves it. EcoVet's active ingredients are naturally occurring food-grade fatty acids that have been clinically shown to improve the condition of horses with difficult-to-treat sweet itch problems. EcoVet is effective on mosquitoes, ticks, no-see-ums, as well as flies. You can visit EcoVet online at eco-vet.com for more information or to order. You can find EcoVet at Dover Saddlery Stores, and EcoVet's on Facebook. Just search EcoVet, ECOVET.
Well, EcoVet's been a sponsor now. This is our second year with us, and a lot of our auditors are using EcoVet fly spray now. And one of them had a question because it does use palm kernel oil in EcoVet, and apparently there's concerns about palm oil coming from rainforests, and they're destroying rainforests.
Destroying rainforests and habitats for orangutans.
Yep. Well,
heard about this. Yeah.
They contacted Dr. Tim John, who you've heard on the show before. We did an interview with him about that, and this is what his answer was. He said, we get our palm kernel oil from Emery something chemicals, and this is what they say. They are derived from palm kernel oil from palm trees on plantations in Malaysia. It's very important to note that they are a member of the RSPO, which is the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, which means they are certified that their palm kernel oil comes from sustainable farming in plantations and not as a result of the rainforests. So if you had a concern about the palm oil in EcoVet, then you don't have to worry about that. It comes from where it's supposed to come from. And
farms. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that if it was a concern from our auditors, it must have been a concern for other people. And several of them went out and bought more gallons. So if you're looking for the ultimate in fly sprays, then check out EcoVet fly spray.
Well, next on the show is Dr. Ashley Embley from Rood and Riddle Veterinary Hospital here in Lexington, Kentucky. Well, tonight I am so happy to have Dr. Ashley Embley. She's an ambulatory and sport horse vet for Rood and Riddle on the program. Ashley, welcome.
Hey, welcome. It's nice to be here.
We are so happy. And you are our vet here at Maple Crest Farm. And I grabbed you tonight because we're really talking these couple weeks about sort of heat safety for horse and for rider. So I wanted to talk tonight with you about some issues that you see. You see, as we know, you see a ton of sport horses. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you do in your practice and then start to talk to us a little bit about what we can do for heat safety?
Yes, I am primarily a sport horse veterinarian, like you said. I see hunters, jumpers, dressage, eventers, reiners, driving, polo, a little bit of everything. And I spend 8 months of the year here in Lexington, Kentucky, and 4 months of the year down in Wellington, Florida. So I actually sort of live in the never-ending summer because I leave Kentucky in the cold months and head to Wellington, where it can be 80 degrees. So I live in the hot a good bit. I like the warm. But performance horses, I do a cavalry pro and ever so often thoroughbred, but mostly performance horses. And I guess as far as heat problems, I see a lot of it. One of the most common things that, and maybe people don't think about a lot, is trailering horses in the heat. And if you have to go somewhere to a horse show and you are sticking them in a trailer for a long period of time to get there, some trailers are air conditioned, some of the big commercial vans. But if you're just throwing them in the back of your 2-horse and trucking down the road 3 or 4 hours, I think sometimes people forget the toll that trailering can sometimes take.
So what are some techniques you can use trailering? Like, what are some things you can do before you get into your trailer to have that horse ready to go?
I think that's really important, and the preparation. I always tell people, one thing you can do is always have, if you're getting ready to go somewhere, you can have a regular bucket of water, just plain water hanging in their stall. And then I always like to add a second bucket. And I try and say, make it really tasty. You can enrich it. You can make a little sweet tea by adding a little handful of sweet feed to a bucket of water. And sometimes they'll like to fish for the grain at the bottom, or it makes it extra tasty. Or there are a lot of commercial products available that you can, similar thing where you can add in, it looks like grain that has an apple flavor or a peppermint flavor, and it will encourage your horse to drink. Also, you could use Gatorade or apple juice, anything that your horse likes to drink. If you find something that you can add just to get more water in them prior to going, because a lot of horses stop drinking in the trailer. And then if you have an extreme trip, a lot of times I'm dealing with horses that maybe are shipping from Florida to Kentucky or from Kentucky to California. And when you're talking about really long trips, I even sometimes go out and tube the horses myself, like go out, actually pass a tube and give them water and electrolytes, just because, especially if you have a horse that will not drink on the trailer. My little girl rides, and we have a ton of ponies, and we have one particular pony who, it does not matter how long that pony's in the trailer, she will not touch water in the trailer. So anytime she goes on a long haul, I actually tube her before we go.
I was just wondering about what are some signs that you've seen that the horses are in heat distress or overheated. What should we be looking for as riders?
Well, they get the main thing. Some of them with heat, 2 things. One is your horse sweating. So a lot of times horses will stop sweating in extreme heat, and then you'll notice they start hyperventilating. They will actually, their respiration rate will go up, and they will be puffing. And that sometimes is because they're not sweating, and there's no way for them to blow off the heat. Another thing is that they become incredibly dehydrated, sluggish. I always tell everyone, if you're not familiar with the skin test, it's a very easy test that you can do to sort of check your horse's hydration status. There are a couple things. You can pull a little bit of skin from in front of the shoulder, right there on the neck, pull it up, and when you let it go, it should sort of go back into place very quickly. With a dehydrated horse, you'll notice that you pull that skin up, and then it just stays there a while and very slowly goes back into place. Also, you can take a look at their mucous membrane, their gum. So if you lift their gum, if you push down, we call it capillary refill time. And so that's basically how fast the vessels fill back up after you push down and depress. So a normal horse's capillary refill time should be about 2 seconds or less. So you take your thumb and push it on your horse's gum, it'll make a white spot. And then when you take your thumb away, it should return to the normal color of the gums within about 2 seconds. And if it doesn't, you notice it's taking 3 or 4 seconds, then that means your horse is probably pretty dehydrated.
So once we've kind of trailered to the horse show, and let's say we're at the horse show, it's hot, and we're going to stay there a couple days, what are some things that we can do while we're sort of at the competition? And, we talked about a little bit about what to look for, but what are some things to kind of be preventative once we're there and we're staying there for a little while?
Well, Also, one option that you always have too, and it's sort of an extreme option, but not necessarily. It depends on, it really comes down to knowing your horse and knowing what they can handle and what their comfort level is and how they feel. I mean, if you ride them and they're just not their normal self, they're kind of a little sluggish, maybe a little punky, intravenous fluids are always an option. And especially for, if you're going and you're going to ask your horse a big question. I mean, you're going, it's really hot, you're about to, go cross country. A lot of our people actually will pop a catheter in and run the horses 10 liters of fluids. And in extreme heat situations, it is a very quick way to adequately hydrate your horse. Other simple things, though, are wetting your hay, making slushy. If you can, if they normally get a scoop of grain, adding a little water in it, making a little slurry. I think the most beneficial thing we can do for our horses in these type situations is adequately hydrate them. Because if, just like people, if you stay adequately hydrated, we do much better. It's the dehydration that sort of starts the heat stress.
And also, what do you think? Hanging fans? Do you think that that's a good way to kind of help?
Absolutely. Fans are fantastic, and proper, cooling down. I mean, certainly lots of ice and hosing. I always found it just interesting as kind of coming up through the system. You say, "Oh, well, be careful," cooling down your horse and everything. But then, when you go to Rolex, they actually scan the horses in ice afterwards. But if you have a horse that is extremely overheated, those are measures you can take. Getting tons of cold water on them. Start with their legs first. You always do want to start hosing with the lower extremities and then work your way up. But ice, hose, fans, all of these things would be good. And having extra water, like we talk about the trailer situation. Sometimes you're going somewhere and there's an accident and there's a big pileup and you get stuck on a road and you're stuck there for 45 minutes. Well, make sure you have plenty of water packed with you to go offer your horse water during this time. And, another thing to think about, and this actually happened to me when I was in high school. I was showing in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it was probably 104 degrees. And we were on the interstate headed back home, and there was a terrible wreck. And we were stopped for 3 hours while they were airlifting folks. And my horse was fully wrapped. I had all his leg wraps on. He was wearing a head bumper, and it was so hot. That's the first thing I did. I went back. I offered him plenty of water. I actually took off his leg wrap because if you think about something like that, I mean, we were worried about extreme heat exhaustion for him in that situation because we were there on the black pavement. He's in a 2-horse trailer, no airflow, and all those basically clothes on his legs. We took those off. We hosed him with water that we had brought and had water for him to drink as well. So I think the best thing to do is always be prepared and sort of think about what can happen and just making sure you have adequate stores when you go on trips, when you go to the horse show. Pack your fans, pack a hose, just in case you can't find a hose.
Yeah, no, these are all fantastic tips. I think they're very, very good. And like you said, I think being prepared is really critical in all of these things, especially as it gets hot. And if you live in the South, and it does, or if you're in Florida, I mean, it was our last horse show. We kind of had to talk about taking some measures like this because our last show in Florida, it was in the 90s. It was so hot and it was awful. So, well, Dr. Embley, thank you so much for your time tonight. How can our listeners find you online if they have more questions?
They can go to rudeandriddle.com, and we have an extensive website and a team of veterinarians, and we're always here and able to field questions and able to provide services for all of our listeners. So thank you all so much for having me. It was a great time, and everyone try and stay cool.
Well, it's a hot one out there, and the heat wave has hit much of the United States and the rest of the world. Well, don't let dehydration and electrolyte imbalance sideline your horse. Summer Games electrolytes are formulated to replace both the electrolytes and the trace minerals that are lost when your horse sweats. Its concentrated formula allows you to easily feed the correct amount to meet your horse's changing needs. This electrolyte was developed for the equine athletes at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. We all know that it can get hot in Atlanta. For horses on the go, use Summer Games Electrolyte Plus Paste. Each dose contains a serving of Nalox equine antacid for double the protection against stress. And of course, you can find all of that at Kentucky Performance Products. They take out the confusion of choosing the right supplement. And you can find them at kppusa.com. That's kppusa.com. This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
So for this week's Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, we are at first level in our segment that we are running. Philip, this was your idea, and I think it is fantastic. I have already used a bunch of the tips that we talked about last week in the training level segment. So this week we are talking again with Jennifer R. Roth on first level, and I hope you enjoy because again, I think this is a great series, and I'm really enjoying it for myself and all my students. So enjoy Jennifer's discussion.
Well, we are so excited to have Jennifer R. Roth, small R judge, an FEI rider and trainer back on the show. Jennifer, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you for inviting me again.
You did such a great job last time. We just thought, let's do it again.
Oh, go on. No, thank you very much. I had a blast, and it's so fun to chat with you guys this evening. I'm excited.
Well, so we are continuing our series on the judge's perspective and what we're looking for at each level. And now we're moving up the levels and we are at first level. So talk to us a little bit about what is the purpose of first level?
Sure, absolutely. All right. So the purpose of first level, and I'm taking this directly from the test that everybody receives back after they ride. And I want to reiterate the idea that people need to get their tests out and not only read the purpose of the level, but read the directive ideas next to each movement, because there are some wonderful pointers there that I think people oftentimes forget about. So I'm taking this directly from a first level test. It's to confirm that the horse demonstrates correct basics, and in addition to the requirements of training level, has developed the thrust to achieve improved balance and throughness and maintains a more consistent contact with the bit. So again, back in 2015, they revamped all the purposes of the level. And I think an important thing that they added to the whole purposes of the levels is the idea of demonstrating correct basics. And the whole idea that we build from one level to the next, that they're stepping stones. And they actually stated here in the purpose that they have done well at training level. They've confirmed the requirements there. And now they're ready to move on to first level and have developed thrust. Now, when we talk about developing thrust, first level is the place we first see lengthening in both the trot and the canter. You know, you'll see lengthening both directions in all three of the first level tests. And it's, improved balance. So we're starting to talk about, the horse being in better balance than maybe we saw at training or intro. And that maintains a more consistent contact with the bit, that it's starting to be steadier in the bridle all the time. Again, we were a little bit more flexible at intro and training level. We're starting to have, a little bit higher standards coming first level. So that's going to be the purpose of first level. And what I also want to let everybody know, and probably everybody's caught on to this if they've thought about showing a first level test, all trot work may be ridden rising or sitting now. It used to be a requirement that you had to sit the trot at first level. That is no longer the case. Hasn't been for a couple of years now. And that has, again, that was done more to save like the horses' backs and to encourage people to ride more forward and all of that other good stuff. And it's made it a bit more of an inviting level to most people because they see that sitting trot as a daunting task if you have a big mover or if you're just kind of learning the whole sitting trot. Again, rising, you can rise or any combination of rising or sitting throughout first level tests, unless it's a requirement to rise, which is, of course, the stretchy circle. But I tell people, people ask me all the time, can I rise and can I sit? As long as it does not disrupt the performance, as long as you're not randomly throwing your horse off balance, you can rise and sit whenever you want. You can rise 3 strides, sit 6, rise 7, sit 2.5. As long as it's not altering the balance of the horse and distracting from the performance, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Just a quick question about that.
Sure.
Yeah. How important is it to be rising on the correct diagonal? How much do the judges look for that?
Interestingly enough, there's no rule that you have to be on the correct diagonal. The rule states that you have to change your posting diagonal when you change direction. They kind of didn't put in the fact that you have to be on the correct diagonal, at least not the last time I checked. That may have changed. Again, if it's not altering the balance of the horse, if you are posting on the correct diagonal and it's not making the horse unbalanced, we don't say a word about it.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, it's aesthetically more pleasing because it's more traditional to post, on the outside diagonal. But again, if it's not doing any harm, then no harm, no foul.
And where do you like to see the change of the posting diagonal on the diagonal
the posting
line?
diagonal, like when you go across the diagonal or something like that. What I always tell riders, if we're referring, especially because it's his first level, the lengthen trot, I like to tell people either do it before you start the lengthening or do it after you're done. Don't do it in the middle or anywhere in before or, before you're, I'm sorry, don't do the change of diagonal while you're doing your lengthening, because the chances of you throwing your horse off balance or disrupting, the lengthening are pretty great if you randomly change your posting diagonal in the middle. So I like to tell them, like I said, do it before you start or do it after. I personally do it after just because not always do I have a presence of mind to do it beforehand. But there you go. When it comes to if you're just trotting across the diagonal, anywhere is fine. I like to do it at X because it adds a degree of symmetry to it. But as long as it happens somewhere on the diagonal, it's all good.
Got it. And how about that lengthening? Let's talk a little bit about that. That's the first time that you actually see sort of a transition within the gait. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you're looking for with the lengthening?
Sure, absolutely. So when we talk about the lengthening, we want to see kind of a moderate change in the horse's length stride. We're going to be, when we first see it in first level test 1, we're looking for a moderate lengthening of frame and stride. The trot has to remain of good quality and regular. The tempo has to be consistent. The horse has to be straight. And we want to see the transitions before and after, the lengthening, that they're clear. So we don't want to see people hit the diagonal and gun their horses and they go rushing across there and at a faster speed. That kind of isn't really the purpose. We do expect that the horse gains a length of frame, like it takes its neck and its nose out a little bit. I think everybody thinks that they have to keep the head, back and in and all this other stuff. That's actually going to deter the horse from wanting to cover more ground. So allowing the horse to stretch out just a little bit. Again, I don't want it going across there, on a floppy rein, with its nose poked out into the next county. That's not the point either. But allowing the horse to lengthen its frame just a little bit. And we're looking for a little bit of a longer stride. It doesn't have to be, we're not going to hold you to the same expectation that we were an extended trot in third level. But, it's a place that we're starting to ask for, like you said, a change within gait and covering more ground without speeding up, and maintaining that quality, and not getting off balance in the middle, just balanced and steady and covering more ground. Don't chase it. So it's a difference too. You know, sometimes people go across and don't honestly do enough or try to do enough either. So it's important that they remember to actually ask for a little bit of something too. And it is a place, that horses are just learning how to do it. So we expect that it's not going to be perfect, but we definitely want to see some effort.
That makes total sense. And how about the next thing that you see in first level test 2 is the leg yield. It's the first time you're going to do that. Yeah, the leg yield. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're looking for with that?
Sure, absolutely. So I like to call the leg yield in first level test 2 a gentle meander because it starts at L to the corner letter. So it's from L to M and then L to H. So it's 3/4 of the long side, which to go 10 meters sideways, 3/4 of the long side is not, there's not going to be a lot of crossover. It's more forward than it is sideways. And the whole purpose of the gentle meander at first level test 2 is, to demonstrate control and alignment of the horse. We want to see that the horse is controlled going forward and sideways in a straight way. And that you have control of that shoulder, that the horse is aligned with reference to the long side, that you're remaining relatively parallel to the rail with the horse slightly positioned away from the direction of travel. And remember, leg yields don't have bend. They have positioning. And oftentimes I'll see somebody come down that center line for their gentle meander and the head gets cranked around to the inside and they shove the horse sideways. And inevitably when you bend a horse in the leg yield, you lose control of that shoulder. And now we've got a crooked gentle meander instead of, the whole point of a leg yield, which is a straightening and control exercise, has gone out the window. So remember to keep your horses parallel to the rail, keep control of that outside shoulder, position it gently to the inside. And remember, in this instance in first 2, it's probably more forward than sideways. The trot shouldn't change. Whatever quality trot you had in other places, you keep that same trot in your leg yield. It's not supposed to lose impulsion. You're supposed to keep that same consistent trot from the beginning of the leg yield to the finish of the leg yield.
Got it. And how about first 3? It's a little bit more difficult than the gentle meander, right?
It is.
There's a little back and forth. We got a little bit back and forth action happening.
Yeah, it goes from a gentle meander to a very dramatic sort of leg yielding. I find this to be actually in first 3. This, in addition to, I think the circle 10 meter to halt to circle 10 meter,
yes.
The leg yield sequence and the circle turn circle are the 2 most difficult things in first 3 that people seem to have the most trouble with. We were talking about posting diagonals just a little bit earlier. So the leg yield in and out in this test, oftentimes if I have a client that is going to rise the leg yield, I tell them to swap their posting diagonal. So the leg yield is from the left to the right. You're coming from the rail in to X in this test, and then from X back out to the corner. So you come around, I tell them to go from posting with the left shoulder to posting with the right shoulder, because oftentimes once you started that leg yield, if you're posting with what is now the outside shoulder in this leg yield, it helps riders to use their left leg.
It's actually a change of direction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somewhere after the corner, you have to change the direction of travel.
Correct.
Because there has to be a slight left bending and moving away from that new inside leg. You have to change what the inside leg is, right? So that makes sense.
Absolutely.
With your posting, you have to be posting with the change of direction.
Absolutely. But for some reason, some people don't think about it that way. But those of us that, have to remind people of all these fun things when they're getting ready to go down center line, they can't even remember their own name. This will help you out. I promise. It's a lot to think about, but this will help you out. So again, we're looking for in that leg yield in and out, the alignment of the horse. I will admit that leg yield coming from the rail in, that's really hard. The rail has a gravitational pull that always sucks horses over. So getting the horse to break that gravitational pull and move away from the rail off that left leg is a really hard thing to do. It often seems like the leg yield from X back to the rail is way easier for most people because the rail is drawing the horse over there anyway. So again, it's about alignment. Again, leg yields don't have bend. They just have positioning. And we're looking for the quality of the trot, the consistent tempo, that it's not like turning into this crawl as you try to move it sideways, that you have that same good quality of trot that you had through the other parts of the test. You're demonstrating that here. And it's balanced and it's flowing. But yes, straightness is the thing that you see fall apart the most. Oftentimes, people are trying to get to X and it's a not easy thing to do. And all of a sudden we're on a diagonal and we've left the haunches in the back 40. So really practice, if you can, get into a regulation size ring. So it's not a surprise when you get to a show. Or, if you have, go out and ride in your field and mark out, where the different letters are, even if it's not a ring per se, but know what it feels like to go 10 meters sideways in that short of space. Because it's not a lot of time. And people don't realize that until they get to a show and all of a sudden they're in the test going, well, that was a lot harder and I just got an insufficient score because I never even got close to X. So practice beforehand. Don't wait
that's
till
a
you
geometry
get into the
thing
ring,
again,
then
right?
it's already too late.
Yeah.
Geometry. Absolutely. Don't lose unnecessary points. It's, you lose a half point or a point here or there. That's the difference in a lot of times first place and last place. So make every point count. Don't leave points on the table when you don't have to.
Yeah. I think it's so true.
Yeah, that is. The next thing I wanted to talk about is also first 3 requirement is sort of the introduction to counter canter or the loop in counter canter.
Yes. That brief moment
seems to
of
blow
counter
people's
canter in the
minds.
canter loop.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've
seen it written in so many different ways.
Coming off of training 3 where in the trot and training 3 you change the bend.
Yeah.
Yeah, people think it's the same thing.
So exactly, and it's not, because especially if you're riding a horse that, if you're lucky enough, has more training and maybe a flying change. If you go across there and you pull on the outside, pull its head the other direction, all of a sudden you've got a lovely lead change that is definitely above the level and not what we're looking for, and we can't give you extra credit points, unfortunately. So it's sad. I know that was a lovely clean change, but it doesn't work.
Not.
No. So it's the first introduction of counter canter, and it's just a couple strides, a little bit right before X, at X, and after X. But like counter canter, you have to keep the bend towards the lead. So if you're doing the loop to the right, you want to keep that right bend all the time. And again, it's just a few steps to counter canter. It's the first introduction to it. You want to make sure you stay sitting into the bend. Maintain the degree of bend that you would, normally for the lead. Don't go randomly cranking on the outside rein, because even if your horse doesn't have a lead change, if you pull it back to the wall with your left rein, there's a good chance it's going to fall out of balance and either swap leads or break. Really think about maintaining the bend. And it's, again, just a soft arc. People either try to ride it like a triangle, like it's a broken line, and then all of a sudden, the degree of difficulty just got way harder. And again, we're breaking or swapping or doing something we're not supposed to be doing, and then we're not getting that 8 that I want to give you. But ease in, ease out, and make sure you get to X, because that is the line that I am sitting on. I am sitting on the center line, and I will be able to tell if you don't touch the center line. So get there.
Yeah, that's a big one. Well, fantastic. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for going through first level on our journey up the levels with the judge. And if our listeners have any questions or extra questions for you, how would they find you online?
Find me on Facebook. That is usually the place that I prowl and stalk other people the most. On Facebook, I am Jennifer R. Ross. There are other Jennifer Ross out there. But I am Jennifer R. Ross on Facebook. I also have a farm Facebook page. It's Milestone Farms. And you can like that page. That would be awesome. And I'm redoing my website. So hopefully by the next time I talk to you guys, I will have something useful there that I can send people to, but not quite yet.
Love it.
Awesome.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. This was fantastic. And both Phil and I learned stuff. We really appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys again for having me, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Well, now, before we end the show, I did notice that some of our auditors and listeners have been getting the new Total Saddle Fit saddle pad. So why is it becoming popular?
Because it's awesome.
It's just the best. Yeah, I have to say that I have two of the 6-point saddle pads now, and was just washing them before the show. And they recommend a hand wash, sort of a gentle wash with a little bit of detergent. And that's what I did. And they came out sparkling white. They weren't super dirty in the first place, but my pads look great. So, I mean, you can see me.
And let me say,
in the show.
Yeah, and if Phil can do it, anybody can do it. I'm just saying. I am just saying, if Phil can get it sparkly right, yes, anybody can
they're good quality because I didn't, I'm not really that gentle.
Because you didn't destroy them.
I didn't. Yeah, I mean
the fact that he can make it sparkly white is magical.
and I've got the one padded up for my one horse a little bit in the back, and it sits my saddle perfect. And ever since I've been using it, he's, honestly, he's going better. I'm not. Because, I mean, Reese, you said to me, well, there's a little issue with your saddle being a little tilted, and stuff. And I said, maybe you're right. So just put the little shims in the pad and boom. Perfect.
Boom, done. Yeah, and I could see it on the video. So I was, yeah, it's fantastic. And again, Dustin is great about answering questions. And I mean, if you can see it on video, he can tell you how to help trim it. So it's really a saddle pad.
And say, here's my saddle, and here's the little issues, and he'll say, oh, you can shim here, and that's awesome. I mean, it's such a great resource. What a great company to take care of its customers so well, and to make such great products. And the best part, they're just not that expensive. When I take their pads versus some of the other companies, I mean, they're better and they're cheaper. So why wouldn't you buy it?
Yeah, absolutely. The 6-point saddle pad, really, honestly, everybody should own it, especially if you're having any saddle fitting issues or you have young horses that you ride that are changing. And it's really a really good pad. Honestly, it's a very, very good investment. You will not be sad that you have it.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming out here every week, even the weeks I'm not here to babysit you.
And we're glad today you're babysitting. Yeah, and we're glad you're babysitting us tonight because it's so.
Why is it that the only time it storms in Lexington, Kentucky, is on Thursday night at 6:00 when we're recording the show?
It's true. It's true every week. Well, it is kind of our stormy season. We were talking about today turning the horses out at night, and you know what? We can't yet because it's just too stormy. It stormed last night and stormed today, so. Been one of those. We're in that pattern right now. Our grass is beautifully green, but and we're cutting grass, I swear, every day. So no complaints on that end. But sorry.
Well,
but thank you guys for working with us.
We also want to give our thoughts and prayers out to everybody in Texas who just, it's just getting worse and worse down there. They went from 10 years of drought to flooding every day. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can find our show notes and today's guests at the website at dressageradio.com and all the links that we have for the show there as well. Get the app, download it to iOS or Android. Just search for Horse Radio Network, and it's simple, and it's easy, and it's free. And the Dressage Radio Show is one of the 10 shows on there. You can like us on Facebook at Dressage Radio Show, and also on Twitter. Sometimes I forget we even have Twitter, at Horse Radio. And Reese can be found at...
Well, my website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
And Philip can be found at?
You can find me on Facebook, Philip Parks, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com.
And we want to thank our sponsors, of course, is Kentucky Performance Products, EcoVet, and Total Saddle Fit. That's it. That's all I've got.
Everybody, I got it. Keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.